You want to be found online, but is your website doing you any favors?
We're chatting with Kelly Kumler about all things SEO and how you can optimize your site for searchability online.
Kelly Kumler is a brand, website, and SEO strategist who helps service based businesses build brands that grow organically and stand out online. With a background in education and entrepreneurship, Kelly helps turn complex marketing strategies into clear, actionable steps.
Through a blend of creativity, research driven strategy, and a deep focus on organic growth, she helps entrepreneurs create brands and websites that actually work, not just look good.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9 to 5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. We are here with Kelly today to talk about all things SEO, which I personally desperately need to know about.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Okay, so just like I hear the term SEO thrown around a lot, and at least I know what the acronym stands for, but can you help me with how would you define SEO? Is it just like keywords or help me out here?
Okay, yeah. So really, SEO, it's not just about keywords. It's really like a set of rules that all of the search engines on the internet, so Google being, of course, really the biggest one,
Mhm.
but other search engines like Pinterest and YouTube and Bing, and now even, these AI search options, they all have their own set of rules to try and prioritize the highest quality content that they're serving to their searchers. So, the way that Google stays in business is by continuing to provide the best content to answer the questions people are looking for. So, there are some things that we can do within our own websites to make sure that we're answering those and providing the best possible content to be served.
Well, then, are all of the different rules different across all different platforms? So is YouTube's rules different than Pinterest?
There is definitely, they each have their own algorithm. However, we generally find that there are a lot of commonalities among them. So they're not going to be, necessarily major differences. But it's like Google does these core algorithm updates usually a few times a year. And so that's going to slightly shift how things are showing up within Google, which, as like Pinterest maybe does an algorithm update, it could prioritize things a little bit differently.
Huh. How about that?
Yeah. I feel like SEO is everywhere nowadays, even on Instagram. It's
Yes.
keywords and yeah, we're all fighting the SEO battle, I feel like, in more
Oh.
places than we want to be.
Yeah, for sure. But
Yeah.
it's like you said, kind of when you think about if you do some keyword research up front, you usually can use those keywords across all of your platforms and still find some general success with that.
Yeah. So I know you obviously work with a lot of small business owners and solopreneurs and small teams and all that fun stuff. So, in your experience and in your expertise, why do you feel like SEO is so important, especially on the website side? Why should someone even take time to
Yeah,
do the
I mean,
research?
it is a lot of work up front and it can be hard to understand that this is a long game. You're not going to be posting for 3 months to then suddenly see a bunch of growth. It's something that takes a lot of time to see traction from, but it's also something that you can plant the seeds and then let it grow. So you're not necessarily needing to be in your website daily. Like on Instagram, we're posting multiple times a week, most likely to get traffic. Whereas you can do some key important things with your SEO, in the behind the scenes of your website, and then let it be and let that just grow. So you're not necessarily needing to invest a ton of time into that platform on a continuous basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like that's also probably very relieving for some people to hear.
Like me,
Yes.
like me, Branda.
Yeah, I think so many of us are nowadays are like kind of exhausted by the daily grind of social media. So to know like there's something you can do that's like I can do this like once or maybe fine a couple of times and it can last me for months on end. Like, oh my God, that is so much nicer than trying to come up with new content daily and entertain the masses with my
Oh my
dance
gosh,
moves on Instagram.
yes.
Are there any like tools that you kind of recommend for like keyword research? I have a couple of my faves. I have some that I recommend for clients with blogging. I don't know if you have any that you recommend overall for like tracking where you're at with your like kind of ranking, like what's performing well, what's not. What do you usually use?
For keyword research, we probably have a lot that are similar. My go-to is Uber Suggest, just to get an idea of, what are people searching for and how hard is it to rank for that keyword. I also love Keyword Surfer, especially when writing like a blog post, so that you can look that tool. It's an extension on Chrome, and you can go in and like search a keyword on Google, and then you see the results, and it gives you some more information about those results. How many times is this specific keyword used? Can you find a way to, basically outrank that content with the information that it gives you? But as far as analytics and like tracking information, I always go to Google Analytics and Google Search Console. Those are just like so important, and they have really the basics, but it's important to know, where is your traffic coming from to your website? Is it coming from organic search? Are you getting traffic from social media? Like, just being able to know where it's coming from so you can better invest your time and money into growing, or where you're going to spend your time on either of those platforms. And Google Search Console is like the one I feel like people don't know about initially, but it can make such a big difference. It's basically telling Google like, hey, my website and my content exists, so let me just like nudge you to put it out there.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites to use and to use with clients. And I think so many people don't know it's not like Google Analytics. I will agree. I'm not like a big website girly, right? So that's not like where I hang out a lot of times. And I think it is a bit more complicated. So when people see that, they're like, oh my gosh, no more Google things. But Google Search Console, I feel like it's a lot more user friendly. And it's nice that you can go in and like see what queries you're showing up for and also like what similar things, like maybe you didn't think about using that particular keyword, or you're like, I don't even know what to use for like my next blog post, and you can kind of poke around in there and it'll give you ideas. So
Yeah,
I agree. It's kind of
absolutely.
one of my favorite places to be.
Well, that is fascinating. So if you were someone like, I feel like I'm like the third like wheel here, like, thinking, oh gosh, I paid somebody many years ago who was wonderful to like do my website, and she did my copy and design and all of the things and show it many moons ago, back in 2021. And I was, of course, way more excited about like the brand book and, that stuff that she gave me, that I don't know. And this is, I feel like, probably embarrassing to admit, but we're admitting it now for the world to hear. I don't know the last time I went back and like looked at like any of the things that you're talking about for me personally. Now I've looked for my clients, and I know like where their traffic's coming from, and Squarespace has like its own analytics, and we use Google Analytics and all that stuff. But let's say, for example, that you're an online business manager who had a website built 4 years ago, and you feel like maybe after talking to someone about SEO, you should go and look at some stuff. What would be like the first thing you would tell me to do? And I'm going to just take notes here.
Okay. I would say go into, well, we're going to assume that this hypothetical person has Google Analytics set up.
She does, I think. Yes, she does.
Great. Because then in that case, I would go there and just look at like your general reports and see where your traffic is coming from. Because then you'll know, are people finding you through SEO? Are they finding you from your social platforms? Just kind of gives you an idea of all of the different places that visitors are getting to your website from. So that can then help you kind of like just get the general picture of what's going on and where people are coming from.
Yeah, I can. I mean, the hypothetical person can probably see inside of Google Analytics, which they haven't looked at a very long time for a very long time. And yes, there it's coming back to me a little bit. I can see, or she can probably see some things that would be very helpful. Okay, so after like this hypothetical person has looked and logged into and remembered how to get into Google Analytics, like what would be like, and they can see, I can see where my traffic's coming from. Like, what would be like a good next step to take, do you think, for someone who hasn't touched it in a long time?
Well, and then if you're focusing on growing your organic traffic, so maybe
Mhm.
you go look at it, you see that you get a ton of traffic from your social media and you're happy with that and you're fine with that, then that's great. But if you are focused on growing your organic traffic, from Google or Bing or even, search AI or whatever they're calling it now, uh, chat, search, whatever, then that's when you want to probably head over to Google Search Console. I would take a look at your queries. So what things are you showing up for? Other people are searching and you're showing up, and kind of just getting an idea of if those queries are aligned with how you want to be showing up. Are there some holes where you need to be putting in different content on your website so that you're showing up for those things instead of, I don't know, I was randomly ranking for website where you can find where a picture came from. No idea how.
Oh,
But to me, that's not like exactly where I want traffic coming to me because they're probably not my ideal client.
yeah. And then like confused when they're getting there, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Now, I don't know if this, I'm going to go rogue Branda off script here for a second, but UTM codes, does that have anything at all? Like if you are attaching that to a different type of traffic? I mean, I imagine it doesn't have to do with like SEO specifically, but like, do you look at UTM codes at all or like basically never?
I don't. I'm
Okay.
sure there are people that do, but
Well,
I don't.
that's why I was wondering because for a little bit of time, we were using them like ad nauseum with a client for like each different Instagram story. Like
Mm.
if there was an Instagram story that linked to a sales page, like we would make a special UTM code like for that story, and then it would show up in Google Analytics. And I feel like that's honestly why I stopped looking at Google Analytics for myself because I just like couldn't deal with it anymore.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, that's why I was just wondering because I felt like it also didn't really work the way that I wanted it to overall.
Yeah. I mean, it could be so helpful for something like a launch where you're like really trying to track specific data within a certain period of time. But
Hmm.
yeah, like if you're doing it for like every little thing, it can easily get very overwhelming.
Yeah, all right, cool. Not just me. Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah. And I also just feel like I've heard so many things about UTM codes not being super reliable. So that's also
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast episode. So obviously you've looked at a lot of people's websites, a lot of people's analytics. You've helped people design their own websites. What is like some of the biggest SEO mistakes that you're seeing that people are making on their websites, either from the design side, the copy side, just because I know they both have some effect on SEO, right? So
Yeah.
what are some of those mistakes that you're seeing pretty commonly?
Probably the most common one I see is people not even realizing that they can tag their text on their website. So every bit of text that is on your website has a different tag, whether you realize it or not. And that could be all the way from like heading 1, so that's H1, heading 2, 3, 4, paragraph, there's div, there's navigation, there's a bunch of different things. Now, generally speaking, your every page on your website should have one H1 heading. And then you can have multiple H2s, H3s, and the body text should be paragraphs. It's really, if you think about it, it's like telling Google, here is the title of the book, your H1. The chapters of your book might be the H2s. There could be subchapters, H3, right? And then the bulk of it is going to be your paragraph text. So most of the time, like especially in like Squarespace is a big culprit, which
I was going to say this. Yeah.
Squarespace. Like people think, you assign these text styles to the H1s and H2s. So people are like, oh my gosh, I just think that the text and size of the text for that H2 is perfect. So I'm going to use it everywhere. Or like the H1 where you're only supposed to have one. And then you go in and you realize you have like 17. And it can be like you didn't even notice if you didn't have that knowledge about these text tags ahead of time.
Yeah, I have to admit that I sometimes totally just don't even follow those rules because of that, because I use Squarespace and it is tied. And it's like, I don't know why, but there's specific pages on my website that like the text decides it's going to look totally a different size, even though it's like the same text across the entire website. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to use like the H1 here for like multiple things, even though I know I'm not supposed to do that. So I agree. I think that's like probably one of the most frustrating things about having a Squarespace website. But I agree, those people would not know that. I would not have known that unless I had taken an SEO course where they said that. And I'm like, oh, right, that does make sense.
Yeah, for sure. No, it gets overlooked really easily.
Yeah. Are there any other kind of SEO things that you notice that come up a lot, or that you're kind of having to correct some like misconceptions around when you're designing a website for a client, or you're kind of like looking at the copy they have or something like that?
Yeah, one thing that, especially like if you're DIYing your website, that you probably just don't even consider is compressing your photos. Especially if you have several photos on your website, those are typically like take up a lot of space and can really slow down your website. And so once your website is slowed down, that starts to affect your SEO score because people are bouncing off of your page. If they're coming there and it's taking 10 seconds to load, they're not going to stick around. They're going to leave, and that's going to negatively reflect, your SEO score and just your website in general. So going and compressing photos ahead of time before adding them to your site can be really helpful. So yeah, I use a tool called Tiny PNG to do that, where you can upload them, it compresses them, and then you download them and put them on your site.
Yeah, I have like a separate folder now that I put all those in because I will easily mix them up on like which are compressed and which aren't. And I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, the website people can use to check to see it's like page speed insights. I believe it's like a really common one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And that's another like Google Run tool. So I think you can even connect it to your Google Search Console so that you can kind of get all that information in one hub.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. So yeah, I'll have to look into that. That would be really easy. And whenever the first time I used it, I was like, oh my God, it's a little scary. If you have never used it before, you're like, all the things that come up, you're like, okay. But yeah, it is definitely helpful to know.
A lot of it can be overwhelming because it'll be like JavaScript loading error, and you're just like, I don't even know what to do with that. But you can kind of pick through things and at least see like how much is in the red, and how much is really slowing you down. Versus, okay, generally my website's like running at a decent speed, so it's not something I need to worry about too much.
Yeah. And also like a total plugin for hiring a designer like Kelly who knows SEO is that you won't end up like me with a Squarespace template that has like a bunch of just like weird code on the other end that like I have no idea how to access any of it. But now I like every time I pull up my page speed insights, it's like all these JavaScript things in there that I'm like, I don't know, but it's like apparently there's a lot of unused stuff in there that I don't even know how to get rid of. So probably hiring a designer who would like, know what should be in there, what should not is probably the way to go. But that's not what I did. So I'm stuck with it.
Well, I mean, I think there's like a happy medium, Branda, because like I did. And now I was like, well, my website's done. It's so pretty. And I just don't do it's just there now, like the same since 2021. I mean, you've like messaged me and text me like, Melanie, it's not November. You need to update your strategy sessions because it's May. Like you're not booking for. See, I neglect my website. It's like I don't know. It's definitely neglected. But okay, so hiring a designer who knows SEO, definitely important. I keep hearing something, Kelly, called keyword stuffing. Explain it to me like I'm 5. And how can you, which Branda has tried to do, but let's hear it from a different perspective. How can you like use keywords on a website without doing this thing that they call stuffing?
Okay, so first, keyword stuffing is if you do some keyword research and let's say that you like really want to rank for like email copywriter. Okay, I'll
Hmm.
use Branda as kind of an example here. And if she went onto her website and then just like all over her website was like the headline is like your email copywriter and then the subheading is like the best email copywriter in town, like just throwing that word everywhere to the point that it's like ridiculous and it doesn't actually like sound like normal people are reading it. That's where we're just like stuffing it in unnecessarily. But
Ah,
where we can kind of put in these keywords without just like crazy stuffing, I try and focus on a few key places for each of your website pages. So for me, that's usually your H1 heading, your page title. So that can also be called the SEO title on the back end of your site,
hmm.
your meta description, and then if it also makes sense, your URL slug. Those are
Okay.
the areas I like primarily focus in, but even so with like an H1 heading, I'm like, oh, if we can get that keyword in there, let's do it. But if it doesn't sound natural, I do kind of tend to lean towards the like, you're talking to humans, let's start
Yeah.
there.
Okay. So like it's literally just what it sounds like, stuffing them in to wherever they may go until you sound like a weirdo. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Feel
Try
like
not
that's
to do.
how we all like started probably doing SEO, like the beginning, just like putting it in as many times as we can.
Yeah, yes, for
I've
sure.
made that mistake a time or two when I was a young baby business owner.
Yeah.
Um, I know we've talked a bit about like compressing your images. You mentioned something else that I'm blanking on at the moment. We're gonna blame the baby for that one, baby brain. I know it was insightful though, and I remember I'll be like, that was a good tip. But what other ways does website design kind of affect SEO? Like whenever you're going and you're planning out a website, this is definitely a place that I have no idea anything about. What is important for you to make sure that you include in the design or that you're very conscientious of to make sure that a page, like an overall website, isn't getting slowed down, or that it is capable of ranking well?
Yeah, so a lot of those things like going into the page slowdown has a lot to do with it. So the compressing photos, adding in like custom elements. So this one is more common on websites like Show It, for like Melanie and myself that are on Show It. There's so much design flexibility in there, but you do have to be aware of like how many extra things you're adding in because that can really slow down your website. The custom fonts, even that's something to consider and think about. But even aside from like page slowdown, just the general flow of your website page should be something that is engaging and attracting your visitors. So if someone is coming to your website and then immediately leaving because they don't see what they need or they're no longer interested in it, then that registers to Google or whatever search engine you're using, like, oh, this website actually wasn't the type of content that that person was looking for. So let's not continue to serve that to them because they're not finding what they need. So thinking about like the general layout of every page of your website, you really need to consider what information needs to be upfront right on top. If you are like a local business owner, you should have your location in that very top section, which we call the hero, because immediately, like, I hate when I go to a website and I'm like, oh, they say they're a photographer and I'm looking for a photographer. And then I'm like, do you even work in my area? I don't know where you're at. Things like that will immediately send visitors away. They don't want to go searching for it. We're all lazy and we have things to do. So just put that information up front. There is another tool that I use. Again, I've now given you like 50 million things, and that's probably a whole long list of overwhelming, but it's called Hotjar. And you can install it on your website so
Mm.
that you can see where people are clicking to on your site and like what point in the page are people dropping off at. So you get an idea of like how long are visitors sticking around and how far down are they scrolling? What information are they actually getting?
Yes, I've heard of that. I've used that and something else when it comes to launches with like sales pages. Wow, I can't think of what I usually use because it's not Hotjar, but it's something like a page heat map where you can see where like most people spend the time, but I'm totally
Mhm.
blanking on the tool. So I'm sure that was really helpful, everybody. But
So just stick with Hotjar and
yeah, just stick with Hotjar because Melanie's can't even remember the name of what she uses. That's going to make me insane. I'm going to yell it out in like 5 more minutes after we're off this call, I'm sure. Um, so do you design in just Show It, or do you do Show It in Squarespace, or do you do WordPress?
I do show it in Squarespace. I
Okay.
really, really try and avoid WordPress
Sure.
because one, I think that like if you try and be great at all the platforms, you're going to probably fall short somewhere,
100%. Yeah.
But also, I've just had so many issues with WordPress websites before. And this isn't the case for everyone, but
Yeah.
I have definitely had more WordPress websites that end up like randomly going down and like, you better hope you backed it up type of thing,
Hmm.
than I've ever dealt with Squarespace or Show It. So I really try and stick within those platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like Show It. Clearly, I don't
Me
update it much,
too.
like I said, but I like Show It. Branda likes
Yeah.
Squarespace, so
I mean,
good
I've used it
choices.
for like years. It's just, I think they're also just
Yeah,
both more user friendly. Like
Mhm,
after someone's done the design, I think they're easier to upkeep, whereas WordPress is a bit
for sure.
more
hmm,
um intensive on the upkeep. But I
Yeah.
totally get why people use WordPress too. I do think there's more just like flexibility there. Obviously, we've
Yeah.
talked about Squarespace's short fallings with some of their things, so totally
Mhm.
get that. Um, if someone was looking for a designer who A is excellent at their craft like you are, and B has a lot of knowledge in SEO, like where could they find you? Where do you hang out? And kind of like what's maybe some of your favorite projects to do with clients?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Kelly Ryan Co. Ryan's with two N's. It's how my name is actually spelled, not just like a fun little flair. And then my website is kellyryan.com. And yeah, I love working on, I do branding, website, and SEO. I kind of love doing all of it because it combines that creativity and also the, logical analytical side. One of my favorite services is what I call the full stack. If you've been to my website or anything, it's like all waffle, and the brand theme is very like breakfast. So hence full stack. So where it really
Oh,
combines all three services. So then you can get it all together.
Yes, her branding is extremely cute. She knows I'm obsessed with the waffles.
it makes sense.
I'm
That
like
goes with
honestly really
yours.
jealous. Like ever since she rebranded, I'm like, damn it, I need to rebrand. Like, why didn't I think of this idea? I love the waffles. So they are, it's super, super
Thank
cute.
you.
And yeah, I've seen so much of your work, like you've shared on Instagram and on your website. You're a fabulous designer, fabulous, I don't know, branding expert. What do they call people who do branding? Brander? I don't know.
I
Um,
think it's
I haven't
branding
heard that
expert, but
but
Thank
she
you.
is great at what she does. So definitely, if you're looking for someone to help with website design or branding, definitely reach out to Kelly. Anything else you'd want to share with people who are listening? Like maybe if they want to join your email list, is there any freebies they might want to grab to hop over there?
Yeah, my favorite freebie is actually a free website evaluation. So you can go into the link, just put your email address and your URL, and I'll go take a look at your website, give you like a 5-minute little video to give you some tips on things that you can change up and give you a peek at your SEO if you don't even know where you stand with it, so that you have that
it's me.
information for later.
Nice. Yeah. And we'll make sure to share that in the show notes. So if you want to check that out, you can grab it down below.
Yay, thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your SEO and website design expertise with us.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for joining our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode, please head to your listening app and leave a quick rating and review.
If you're on Instagram, share this episode and tag us at Duxbury Digital and at The Relevant Collective. We'd love to hear from you. We'll meet you back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.